Hey guys, welcome back. This is the second session of Elton Mayo or Human Relations Theory. If you have not watched the first session, please go back and watch that. The link for the same would be in the description. So in the first session, we have seen everything about Hawthorne experiments and whatever studies were conducted by Elton Mayo and his associates like Fritz Roethlisberger, George Pennock and all the other members in his team. So we have seen what all these studies or experiments were, and we have seen what all conclusions were derived from all these experiments. Today we'll continue with that. We'll look at some principal conclusions of the overall Hawthorne studies or the overall Hawthorne experiments that were conducted. What were the final principal conclusions that were derived from them? We'll look at them now. So the principal conclusions, the first is that the results of Hawthorne experiments and subsequent studies of the human relations movement, whatever were there, so all the subsequent studies which happened after Hawthorne and the results of Hawthorne also, so the results of Hawthorne and the subsequent studies led to the discovery of the informal organization. We have seen this in our previous session. Importance of informal organization was recognized, right? What is informal organization? It is something which exists within the formal organization but is not defined in the rules and principles of those formal organization. It is the group bondings that you form with your friends while working on a project or something like that. These are the informal groupings. These are the informal organization that exist within the organization. So these Hawthorne studies and subsequent studies led to the discovery of informal organization and to the inference that social and psychological factors at workplace are major determinants of worker satisfaction and organizational output. So if you have to increase worker satisfaction, if you have to increase organizational output, you will have to consider the social and psychological factors. This was the major conclusion that we saw in previous session also, that society and human emotions and human values, everything plays an important role while motivating the worker, while guiding the behavior of the worker in workplace. So social and psychological factors are very important to guide worker satisfaction and to achieve organizational output and organizational efficiency. This is the first principal conclusion. However, Fritz Roethlisberger, which was the associate of Elton Mayo in his experiments, this guy Roethlisberger, the principal research associate of Mayo, arrived at different conclusion. According to him, the Hawthorne studies reveal that the primary group had as much, if not greater, impact upon productivity as the formally physical surroundings and economic benefits derived from the job. So what Elton Mayo said was that most important things were social and psychological factors, and Elton Mayo never said that money is a big or important part of motivation of workers. He gave, if you remember, he gave two hypotheses at the end of Great Illumination experiment, and he rejected the first hypothesis that money is important factor. So basically Elton Mayo never gave too much of importance to money. He might have even considered it as a motivating factor, लेकिन सबसे बड़ा motivating factor एल्टन मेयो के लिए था वो थी सोसाइटी और आपके खुद के इमोशंस. So social and psychological factors were the biggest and the biggest motivating factors for any worker. That is what Elton Mayo said. What Roethlisberger said is, what Hawthorne studies reveal is that primary group had as much, if not greater, impact upon productivity as the formally physical surroundings and economic benefits derived from the job. So Roethlisberger also gave more importance to primary group. As you can see, primary group had much and if not greater impact. So he gave importance to primary group, but he also acknowledged the formal physical surroundings, the formal structure and the economic benefits. He acknowledged them. Elton Mayo on the other hand never acknowledged as such कि formal physical surroundings का भी काम होता है and economic benefits का भी काम होता है. He gave one hypothesis, he rejected it. Roethlisberger on the other hand acknowledged it, and he said that these primary groups have much importance, and if not greater, they have actual equal importance with the formal physical surroundings and the economic benefits. So this is where Roethlisberger deviated from Elton Mayo. Based on Hawthorne studies, scholars have identified the following concepts. We will now look at some 5 or 6 main concepts that scholars have said that Hawthorne studies have given us. So the first concept is social norms. Hawthorne studies has given us the concept of social norms. The level of organizational effectiveness is determined by social norms. Principles of administration such as division of work or the physiological capability of the worker are not critical factors in productivity. Workers are essentially social beings. They must first be understood as people if they are to be understood as organization members. Their attitudes and effectiveness are conditioned by social demands from both inside and outside the work plant. So basically you have to consider society while you are considering the factors that affect your organization, because as you can see, organizational effectiveness is determined by social norms and not by division of work and not by physiological capability of the worker. The physiological capability of the worker was focused on by F.W. Taylor, if you remember his time and motion studies. So these are not the things that determine or are the critical factors in productivity, division of work and physiological capability of the worker. These are not the critical factors. What is critical is the society that you live in and and these social norms determine the organizational effectiveness. Why? Because workers are basically social beings. जो workers हैं वो society से अलग तो नहीं है ना, वो society में ही रहते हैं after all. So whatever differences they have with the society, they will reflect and manifest themselves in the working of organization itself. So basically workers are essentially social beings and they must be first understood as people. उनको इंसान की तरह treat करो अगर आप उनको अपनी organization का member समझना चाहते हो तो. So they must be first understood as people if they are to be understood as organization members. Their attitudes and effectiveness are conditioned by social demands from both inside and outside the work plant. तो organization के अंदर भी जो भी societal factors होंगे, कुछ caste differences होते हैं, जात पात के differences. So whatever inside and outside the work plant, whatever social demands are, those social demands define and guide the attitude of that worker and effectiveness of that worker. As you can see, the attitudes and effectiveness are conditioned by social demands from both inside and outside the work plant. So this is the first concept that Hawthorne study has given us, that is the social norms. Moving on, the second concept that the Hawthorne study gives us is the group concept. Group standards are a major influence on the behavior of individuals in organizations. Workers do not act or react as individuals, but they do so as the members of the group. Group set standards of productivity and enforce them upon all members. The group also provides a shield against executive reprisals. In both ways, the informal group acts as a restraint on executive power. So basically, whatever group a person is working in an organization is very influential on how that person behaves, on how that person produces the output that he is producing. So everything is controlled by the group that the person is working in. It is a major influence on the behavior of individual, because workers do not act or react as individuals but they do so as members of the group. जो भी लोग बोलेंगे, जो भी लोग करेंगे, उससे इन्फ्लुएंस होता है आदमी, एंड उस इन्फ्लुएंस के अंदर ही वो बाकी चीज़ों को भी रिएक्ट करता है. इफ़ 10 people around you are against something, you also tend to be kind of against something. So they do not act or react as individuals but they do so as members of that group. Basically, rebel hypothesis is rejected over here. As you can relate with rebel hypothesis, rebel hypothesis says what? Every individual acts on his own, they are not influenced by others, but this concept given by Hawthorne study of the group says that group influences every individual and they do not act on their own self-interest every time. Group is a major influence because groups also set standards of productivity and enforce them upon all members. We have seen this in one of the Hawthorne experiments, right? The last experiment of social organization or bank wiring experiment, how people set their own standards within a group. People called names to other people who worked more or who worked very less. So they set their own standards of productivity. This is what the group does. They set their own standards of productivity to maintain a uniform rate of productivity and they enforce this upon all members. The group also provides a shield against executive reprisals. So if your executive is punishing you or putting the blame on you, the group can also act as a shield against that. They can take the collective responsibility and be a shield against your punishment or something like that. So in these both ways, they set the standards and they act as a shield. In these both ways, the informal group acts as a restraint on executive power. Work is a group activity. Workers may react to management, the organization and work itself as members of the groups of informal organizations rather than as individuals. We have seen this in our first point also over here, that individuals act as members of that group rather than as individuals themselves. They are all influenced by the group. They do not every time work on their self-interest. So work is a group activity and it acts as a restraint on executive power. This is the second concept of group. The third concept is of rewards and sanctions. Instead of economic incentives, non-economic rewards such as social rewards and group sanctions are the strong job motivators. They influence the behavior of the workers. So what F.W. Taylor and other classical thinkers said was, money is the only motivator. People are motivated only by money. They gave us a economic man concept, if you remember. So what Hawthorne study gave us was, instead of economic incentive नहीं होना चाहिए. Instead of economic incentive, non-economic rewards such as social rewards and group sanctions. What are group sanctions? If a group is performing low, उस group पे sanction लगा देंगे, उस group को punish कर देंगे. So those group sanctions and social rewards, such non-economic rewards जो होते हैं, they are strong job motivators. Instead of giving money, if you give them respect, if you give them a place in society, if you give them recognition in front of the society, those social rewards सबके सामने acknowledge करो. These are the strong motivators. People want to be acknowledged, right? So these are the strong motivators, non-economic rewards rather than economic incentives as proposed by classical thinkers, and these non-economic rewards influence the behavior of the workers. This is the third concept, rewards and sanction. The next concept is of supervision. Supervision is most effective when the supervisors involve and consult the group and its informal leaders in order to ensure their acceptance of organizational objectives. So involve everyone in decision making. This is nothing but participative management. As you can see, participative management is nothing but whenever you are taking any decision, whenever you are forming any rules, involve your employees, involve your subordinates and ask their opinion regarding that rule. So you are actually making them participate in the policy formulation stage itself rather than policy implementation. Policy formulation पे ही उनको participate करवाओ, and this is how you make your supervision most effective, by involving your subordinates. Human relations scholars believe that effective communication supplemented by a willingness to allow workers to participate in decision making is the key to effective supervision. तो आपके पास दो चीज़ें होनी चाहिए, इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन होनी चाहिए, अच्छी तरह से बात करो, अच्छी तरह से सबसे ट्रीट करो, अच्छी तरह से सबको रिस्पेक्ट करो. तो यू शुड हैव इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन इफ़ यू वांट टू हैव इफेक्टिव सुपरविजन. दैट इज़ द फर्स्ट थिंग, एंड दिस शुड बी सप्लीमेंटेड बाय, इसके साथ साथ आपके पास एक विलिंगनेस भी होनी चाहिए टू अलाउ वर्कर्स टू पार्टिसिपेट इन डिसीजन मेकिंग. तो आप वर्कर्स को अगर डिसीजन मेकिंग में पार्टिसिपेट करने का मौका दे रहे हो और आपके पास अगर अच्छी बात करने की कैपेबिलिटी है, इफ़ यू हैव द कैपेबिलिटी ऑफ इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन, दैट इज नथिंग बट इज द की टू इफेक्टिव सुपरविजन. सो दिस इज द फोर्थ कंसेप्ट ऑफ सुपरविजन. द लास्ट कंसेप्ट इज ऑफ डेमोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. बेसिकली यू शुड नॉट बी ऑटोक्रेटिक, हमेशा बॉसी नहीं बने रहना चाहिए. यू शुड बी लेस ऑफ बॉसी एंड यू शुड बी मोर ऑफ डेमोक्रेटिक. सबकी बात सुनो, सबके ओपिनियंस लो, और जो कोई भी बोल रहा है उनकी ओपिनियंस को इम्प्लीमेंट करने की भी ट्राई करो. दिस इज नथिंग बट डेमोक्रेटिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, राइट? वर्कर्स अचीव द हाईएस्ट लेवल ऑफ इफेक्टिवनेस व्हेन दे आर अलाउड टू मैनेज देयर ओन अफेयर्स. उनको खुद के अफेयर्स मैनेज करने की अथॉरिटी और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मिलनी चाहिए विदाउट बॉसिज्म फ्रॉम देयर फॉर्मल सुपरवाइजर्स. तो बॉसिज्म सबसे कम होना चाहिए एंड दे शुड बी अंडर सेल्फ कंट्रोल rather than under your own supervision. Relate this with Mary Parker Follett if you can. Power over and power with concept. Mary Parker Follett ने Hawthorne स्टडीज़ के पहले बोल दिया था ये सब चीज़ें कि आपको पावर ओवर नहीं एक्सरसाइज करनी चाहिए, you should exercise power with and all those things. So try to relate this thing with that. So these are the principal conclusions that Hawthorne study gave us: social norms, the group, the rewards and sanctions, supervision and democratic administration. So moving on, we will now compare Hawthorne studies with some other things. First we'll compare F.W. Taylor with Elton Mayo. So Mayo's human relations theory is frequently presented as somewhat opposite to that of Taylor's scientific management, and we have discussed this all over our human relations session also. We have always said that classical theory did this and human relations theory did oppose to that. उन्होंने ऐसा किया, right? So we are always trying to project Mayo's human relations theory as opposed to Taylor's scientific management. Some basic differences are there, and these some basic differences are: first is Taylor associated productivity with physical factors and monetary incentives, whereas in Mayo's theory the informal work group norms could affect productivity in a positive way. तो टेलर के लिए पैसा सबसे बड़ी चीज़ थी. अगर किसी को मोटिवेट करना है और उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ानी है तो मॉनेटरी इंसेंटिव्स वर द की थिंग एंड फिजिकल फैक्टर्स वन बेस्ट वे ऑफ डूइंग थिंग्स, टाइम एंड मोशन स्टडीज. सो टेलर एसोसिएटेड प्रोडक्टिविटी विद फिजिकल फैक्टर्स एंड मॉनेटरी इंसेंटिव्स, whereas in Mayo's theory what Mayo theorized was informal work group increases productivity. ठीक है, पैसा वैसा इंक्रीज नहीं करता है प्रोडक्टिविटी, इनफॉर्मल वर्क ग्रुप नॉर्म्स जो होते हैं वो अफेक्ट करते हैं आपकी प्रोडक्टिविटी इन अ पॉजिटिव वे. दिस इज द फर्स्ट डिफरेंस. सेकंड डिफरेंस इज टेलर लुक्ड एट वर्कर्स एज सेल्फ सेंटर्ड रैशनल इकोनॉमिक मैन. वी हैव सीन दिस, राइट? सब अपने सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट के बारे में सोचते हैं. दे आर सेल्फ सेंटर्ड रेबल हाइपोथेसिस, राइट? सेल्फ सेंटर्ड मैन होते हैं एंड दे आर रैशनल इकोनॉमिक मैन. पैसे के ऊपर रैशनल डिसीजंस लेते हैं, जिसमें उनको प्रॉफिट होगा वो वाला रैशनल डिसीजन लेंगे. सो दे आर रैशनल इकोनॉमिक मैन. दिस इज व्हाट टेलर सेड. इन कॉन्ट्रास्ट Mayo looked at them as basically social beings and members of small informal work groups. So they live in a society, they work in a work group. So basically every human being is a social being. This is what Mayo told. This is the second difference. Third difference is sources of conflict between management and workers. Taylor traced the causes of such conflict to the objective difficulties in work situation. If you remember, F.W. Taylor also said that there should be harmony between management and workers. Management और workers दोनों के goal same होते हैं and instead of opposing them, managers should try to relate with the workers. Taylor ने भी ये सब बातें बोली थी. Taylor identified the conflict, but the causes of conflict that Taylor identified were different. Taylor said that causes of this conflict were objective difficulties in the work situation when there is no clarity of job description and all such things. So whatever the objective difficulties are there in work situation, these cause conflict. While Mayo thought that such conflict was a result of the basic emotional attitudes of the worker. अगर conflict हो रहा है organization में तो Mayo said it was because they are not happy, they have some complaints. If you take out that complaints from them, if you give them an opportunity to let off steam, such conflicts will not arise. This is what Mayo said about sources of conflict between management and workers. So these are some basic differences between two approaches, and you can also write many other differences which everyone else will write in exam if you are asked, like Taylor did not consider human side of the organizations and blah blah. So all these things, these are some of the basic differences. But Mayo was really not against Taylorism. What he did was that he debunked Taylor's rigid application of scientific management. तो Mayo completely against नहीं था Taylor के ideas के. What he did was he just debunked Taylor's rigid application of scientific management. इतना rigidly apply नहीं करना चाहिए scientific management को, बस इतना Mayo ने बोला था. कभी भी Taylor को उसने criticize नहीं किया कि Taylor ने जो बोला है वो गलत बोला है. Even he at one point gave a hypothesis के पैसे की वजह से शायद हो रहा होगा. After that he rejected that hypothesis, but he never went against Taylorism. He just debunks Taylor rigid application of scientific management. इतना rigid application नहीं करना चाहिए. In a sense, however, Mayo's human relations theory and Taylor's scientific management are allied, and we'll see how they are allied. Both believed that friendly cooperation between workers and management would eliminate nearly all causes of conflict, dispute and disagreement between them. तो दोनों ने यही बात बोली है, टेलर ने भी यही बात बोली है, मेयो ने भी यही बात बोली है कि अगर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, डिस्प्यूट और डिसएग्रीमेंट बिटवीन मैनेजमेंट एंड वर्कर्स को कम करना है, खत्म करना है, तो इंक्रीज फ्रेंडली कोऑपरेशन बिटवीन देम. इन दिस सेंस दे आर allied with each other, they are complementing each other. Both of them have suggested the same thing, friendly cooperation between workers and management, but they suggested different methods to achieve cooperation and harmony. तो उनके friendly cooperation को achieve करने के methods different थे, but final aim was same कि friendly cooperation होना चाहिए workers के बीच में और management के बीच में. F.W. Taylor felt that high wages would generally suffice to elicit employees' cooperation and compliance. So basically F.W. Taylor said that friendly cooperation अगर करना है तो उनके पैसे बढ़ा दो और वो friendly हो जाएंगे. This is what F.W. Taylor said. Mayo on the contrary suggested such devices as participative style of supervision. तो सबको include करो decision making में and all these participative management styles. This was where Mayo differed. This is the different method of achieving the same goal. उनका final goal same था but the methods were different. However, Taylor did not completely neglect behavioral side. We have always said that Taylor neglected the human side and everything, but if we actually analyze, Taylor did not completely neglect the behavioral side of administration, and we have seen this in defense of F.W. Taylor also. When we studied F.W. Taylor's criticism and after that we defended him, we have seen this, that Taylor did not completely neglect the behavioral side. He always insisted that understanding of human factors such as workers' morale was important to his system. So he underlined the importance of workers' morale and other human factors also. He did not completely neglect the behavioral side. So it is wrong to say that Taylor neglected the behavioral side. Both F.W. Taylor and Elton Mayo both were motivated to improve the productivity of American industries. तो सबसे बड़ा गोल दोनों का सेम था कि अमेरिकन इंडस्ट्रीज की प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ानी है. टेलर ने बोला पैसे दे दो उनको, तो पैसे दे के आप प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ा सकते हो. एल्टन मेयो ने बोला कि उनको इंसान की तरह कंसीडर करो, ट्रीट देम एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स एंड दिस इज हाउ यू विल इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्टिविटी. सो फाइनल बिगर गोल वाज improving the productivity of American industries, and this is how they are similar in nature. Mayo's human relation theory and Taylor's scientific management. So moving on, we will now study human relations versus classical approach. The overall, we saw F.W. Taylor versus Elton Mayo, छोटा छोटा हमने देखा. Now we'll go on overall an overview perspective, एक human relations theory और पूरा classical approach as a whole, how they differ or how they are similar. The human relations theory is called as neoclassical theory. Remember this, neoclassical theory is nothing but the name of human relations theory, because just as the classical theory, it also accepts efficiency, economy and productivity as the legitimate values of organization. We saw this in our last slide also. The main aim of both Elton Mayo and F.W. Taylor was increasing the productivity of American organizations, right? So in a similar way, the classical theory and the human relations theory, on the whole, both of them, they accept efficiency, economy and productivity as the legitimate values of organization. However, to achieve these values, the human relations approach relies on techniques that are different from those of classical approach. So basically अगर आपको इन दोनों को भी compare करना है तो same चीज़ बोलो, the main aim of human relations theory and classical theory are same, but the ways of achieving those aims are different. And in a way, human relations theory is also called as neo-classical theory. It is a newer branch of classical theory. The human relationalists seek to maximize the values of efficiency, economy and productivity by eliminating three things: by eliminating dysfunctions caused by over specialization. So if you remember, classical approach always said that division of work is the most important principle of organization, and division of work brings in specialization. If you remember these things, please try to revise it. Classical theory always said that division of work is most important and division of work brought in specialization. So what human relation theory did was it eliminated dysfunctions caused by this over specialization, and they also eliminated alienating hierarchical arrangements. We have seen this, right? Human relations theorists were against hierarchical and top down and bossism, right? तो ये सब के अगेंस्ट है वो लोग. हायरार्की नहीं होनी चाहिए, ज़्यादा बॉसिज्म नहीं होना चाहिए. So they eliminated alienating hierarchical arrangements, those hierarchical arrangements that alienated the workers from the organization. उन्होंने उस alienating arrangements को ही eliminate कर दिया. And the third thing that they eliminated was general dehumanization of classical approach. So what classical approach did was it dehumanized the organization. We have seen this in criticisms of classical approach, if you remember. So what human relations theory did was they eliminated over specialization, hierarchical arrangements and dehumanization of classical approach. The classical and human relations theories are thus alike in their objective. So the final objective, the final goal or aim of both the theories are same, but they differ in the methods and techniques adopted to accomplish those objectives. So I hope this is clear to you now. So moving on, we will see at some basic differences between the human relations and classical approaches. The first is classical theory emphasizes the formal organization structure consisting of jobs and job descriptions as spelled out in organization charts and manuals. तो जो भी organization charts and manuals में formally rules and principles में जो भी prescribe किया हुआ है उसी को हम consider करेंगे. This is what classical theory says. They give too much of importance to formal rules and principles, and this is how they emphasize the formal organization structure. In contrast, human relations theory is concerned with informal organization, that is the life of individual workers and work group within the organization. We have seen this. The importance of informal organization is what human relations theory focused on. Classical theory takes the atomistic view of man. It considers workers as various cogs in the machine. तो उनको मशीन की तरह ट्रीट करते थे. It took the atomistic view of man. जितना छोटे से छोटा आप आदमी को समझ सकते हो उतना उन्होंने छोटा समझा आदमी को. They considered the atomistic view of man. उनके ह्यूमन इमोशंस को कंसिडर नहीं किया, उनके ह्यूमन वैल्यूज फीलिंग्स को किसी को भी कंसिडर नहीं किया. They just said that पैसे से आदमी आगे बढ़ेगा. So they took the atomistic view of man. On the contrary, human relations theory consider workers essentially as social beings. We have seen this, right? Human relations theory consider workers as social beings who react to management, organization and work itself as members of the group and not as individuals. तो जो बाकी लोग करते हैं उससे वो इन्फ्लुएंस होते हैं और उस इन्फ्लुएंस के अंदर वो बाकी सिचुएशंस को रिएक्ट करते हैं. सो ह्यूमन बींग्स आर बेसिकली सोशल बींग्स. दिस इज व्हाट ह्यूमन रिलेशंस थियरी सेड. इन डिटरमाइनिंग वर्कर्स मोटिवेशन, इकोनॉमिक रिवॉर्ड्स एंड फिजिकल कंडीशंस ऑफ वर्क आर रिगार्डेड एज इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर्स बाय क्लासिकल थियरीज. वी हैव सीन दिस. इन कॉन्ट्रास्ट टू दिस, द सोशल साइकोलॉजिकल रिवॉर्ड्स एंड ग्रुप सैंक्शंस आर कंसिडर्ड बाय ह्यूमन रिलेशंस थियरी एज इंपॉर्टेंट मोटिवेटर्स टू वर्क. वी हैव सीन दिस इन डिफरेंस ऑफ F.W. Taylor also. It is the same thing. The classical theory emphasizes the authoritarian style of supervision, while the human theory relays the democratic type of supervision as the most important. We have seen this in principal conclusions of Hawthorne studies also in this session itself, that Hawthorne studies mainly focused on democratic type of supervision, that should be democratic administration instead of authoritarian supervision that was propagated by classical theory. So these are some of the differences. Now we'll see how they are complementary and they do not contradict each other. The preceding discussion clearly shows that both approaches have taken two different views of organization. If the classical theory viewed organization as formal structures, the human relations approach emphasized informal relations. This is very simple. Neither of the two approaches is wholly right, although each is partially right. तो दोनों में से कोई भी perfect नहीं है, दोनों में से कोई भी 100% correct नहीं है. Both of them are partially right. Both are right in their own sense. In reality, सच्चाई में an organization comprises both a formal structure and informal relations. These aspects of an organization are not contradictory but allied to each other. तो दोनों ने एक अलग अलग concepts को उठाया. Classical theory deals with formal organization and human relations theory deals with informal organization, and both of these theory do not deal with each other's concept. So it's like they are both two halves of one whole. तो दोनों आधी आधी चीजें हैं, दोनों को मिला दोगे तो आपके पास एक complete picture बनती है. So in reality an organization comprises of both a formal structure and informal relations, so you cannot criticize any of them, and this is how they are not contradictory but they are allied to each other. It is well for us to recognize that informal organizations exist in all formal organization. हमारे लिए अच्छा होगा कि हम ये एक्सेप्ट कर लें कि फॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर इनफॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होती हैं, एंड दीज इनफॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आर नॉट नेसेसरली हार्मफुल बट मे फैसिलिटेट टीम वर्क एंड कोलैबोरेशन. सो ये इनफॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो भी होती हैं वो सब अच्छी होती हैं, दे आर नॉट नेसेसरली हार्मफुल. सो इट इज़ बेटर फॉर अस, इट इज़ वेल फॉर अस टू रिकॉग्नाइज दिस फैक्ट, to acknowledge this fact, and this is how both of these theories are complementary and they are not contradictory. So moving on, we'll now evaluate human relations theory. We'll look at some criticisms and we'll look at how it is significant. So criticisms: human relations theory is criticized to be preoccupied with efficiency, just like classical theories. Both wanted to increase material wealth through greater productivity. Human relationists did not go far enough to assert that the ultimate objective of an organization is to ensure employee happiness. So both of the theories, दोनों का हमने ये भी देखा था while comparing them, we have seen that the similarity between them is both had the final goal as improving the productivity of American industries, right? So they were both preoccupied with efficiency. To say that human relations theory were more concerned about workers is wrong, because final aim तो उनका efficiency और productivity ही था, right? Because human relationists did not go far enough to assert the ultimate objective of an organization is to ensure employee happiness. उन्होंने ये कभी नहीं बोला कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का काम होता है एम्प्लॉयज़ को हैप्पी रखना. उन्होंने ये बोला कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को एम्प्लॉयज़ को हैप्पी रखना चाहिए सो दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल अचीव इट्स इफेक्टिवनेस एंड प्रोडक्टिविटी. एज लॉन्ग एज आपको प्रोडक्टिविटी अचीव नहीं करनी है तो फिर आप उनको कैसे भी ट्रीट करो. अगर आपको अपनी एफिशिएंसी बढ़ानी है, प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ानी है, तब तक ही आप उनको खुश रखो. दिस इज an indirect implication of human relations theory, you can say. Both wanted to increase efficiency and both were preoccupied with efficiency. Also, human relations theory tried to substitute human relations oriented supervisors for union representatives. तो जो भी union representatives होते हैं उनको replace करने की कोशिश करी human relations theory ने. As you can see, they tried to substitute human relations oriented supervisors for union representatives, not understanding the role of unions in a free society. This was the criticism of human relations theory. They did not understand the role of unions. Scholars like Lawrence Baritz and others criticized Meyowitz as anti-union and pro-management. So this thing you can actually write in similarity between F.W. Taylor's method and Elton Mayo's method also, because F.W. Taylor was also against trade unions, if you remember. Try to relate everything. And in a similar way, various scholars have pointed out that what human relations theory indirectly does is it negates the role of unions in a free society. It does not give much importance to role of unions. अगर आप individuals को उतना importance दे दोगे तो unions फिर क्या काम करेंगे, right? So it is perceived as anti-union and pro-management. This is another criticism of human relations theory. The next and most important criticism of human relations theory came from Daniel Bell. This person is an eminent sociologist and he said that Mayo practiced not a science of man but cow sociology. What cow sociology is? Humans like cows are seen not as end in themselves but merely as means to an end. So consider this: while you buy a cow, why do you buy a cow? You do not buy a cow just to domesticate it or make it a pet. You buy a cow to get milk. You have a final aim, final objective, and that is why you buy a cow. So your cow, buying a cow is not a end in itself. Buying a cow is a means towards an end. Milk is your end, and आपको वो achieve करने के लिए, वो end achieve करने के लिए you buy a cow. So this is how Mayo treated human beings. He treated human beings as cows, and he saw them as not as end in themselves but merely as means to an end. We have seen this in our first point also. They were both preoccupied with efficiency, right? So they saw human beings as a means towards an end of efficiency and productiveness. Make the workers content and satisfied so they would produce more. As I said, their final aim was producing more efficiency in organizations. So to achieve this more production and efficiency, they said that make the workers content and satisfied. This was just a means towards a final greater goal, towards a final greater end. Mayo was solely concerned, and these are the words of Daniel Bell himself. Daniel Bell said that Mayo was solely concerned with adjusting men to machines rather than enlarging human capacity or freedom. तो human relation theory का final aim human freedom नहीं है, human efficiency नहीं है, उनका final aim efficiency of organization है. And to achieve that, they tried to adjust men to machines. This is what Daniel Bell says is nothing but cow sociology. You treat human beings as a means towards an end, just like how you treat cow as a means towards an end of achieving receiving milk. So this is the most important criticism of human relations theory. Remember this. In a way, human relations theory lowered the dignity of men. So moving on, in its emphasis on informal relations in harmony, the human relations theory almost totally ignored the roles of formal structure, technology and conflict in influencing the behavior of workers. तो उन लोगों ने informal relations और harmony पे इतना emphasize किया कि they totally ignored, almost totally ignored the roles of formal structure. As we have seen, classical theory deals with formal structure, human relations theory deals with informal structure, and they do not deal with each other's concept, right? So उन लोगों ने informal structure पे इतना focus किया कि formal structure they neglected, almost neglected. And this is how classical theory and human relations theory give us a one picture when combined together, right? Because both of them ignored each other's concepts. So human relations theory are criticized for ignoring formal structure. ठीक है, आप informal relations पे focus कर रहे हो, लेकिन formal structure को क्यों neglect कर रहे हो, right? So you should not neglect formal structure, technology and conflict in influencing the behavior of workers. Hence it is also one-sided. Just like scientific management, this is also one-sided. Thus it does not adequately explain the multifaceted organizational behavior and organization relationships. As we have seen in a previous slide, in reality today organizations are both formal and informal, दोनों होता है organizations में, and this is how organizations today are multifaceted, and this is not considered by human relations theory. They are only one-sided, just like scientific management. The human relations theory has overdrawn the contrast between the formal and informal organization. तो इतना बड़ा कर दिया है, बड़ा चढ़ा के बोल दिया है. They have overdrawn the contrast. ठीक है, सब कुछ बड़ा चढ़ा के बोला है. They have overdrawn the contrast between the formal and informal organization and does not attempt to synthesize these two aspects. As we have seen numerous times till now, formal और informal को synthesize करने की कोशिश नहीं की थी, सिर्फ उनके बीच में contrast बढ़ा के दे दिया. So this is one of the criticisms. Next is Peter F. Drucker. He is a big thinker. He criticizes human relationists for their lack of awareness of the economic dimension. So basically the same thing again. They were lacking in the awareness of the economic dimension. सिर्फ human dimension पे ही focus किया, economic dimension पे ज़्यादा focus नहीं किया. He feels that the neglect the nature of work and instead focus a great deal on interpersonal relations. So basically interpersonal relations पे ज़्यादा focus किया और nature of work पे कम focus किया. This is the criticism of Peter F. Drucker. Now one last criticism we'll see, lack of scientific base. Hawthorne studies covered the behavior of small groups only and did not deal adequately with entire organization. Now if you remember, when Hawthorne experiments were conducted, there were basically groups of people, right? Some were group of girls, some were group of men. So what Hawthorne studies did was they covered the behavior of small groups only and they did not deal adequately with entire organization. This is the lack of scientific base. उनका जो base था जो experiment का, that was narrow, too narrow, and this is how they lacked a proper scientific base. This is the next criticism. This is the last criticism that we will study. Carey is one of the thinkers. He criticizes the groups selected by Hawthorne experiments on methodological grounds. He calls the small groups of cooperative girls, samples of 5 and 6 girls, as an inadequate and unreliable sample to make sweeping generalizations. So they have made sweeping generalization. इतने बड़े बड़े generalization दे दिए हैं, इतने बड़े बड़े concepts दे दिए हैं Hawthorne experiments ने, लेकिन जो scientific base select किया उसके लिए, जो group select किए, वो 5-6 लोगों के 2 group select किए, right? So this is very inadequate and unreliable sample. इतने छोटे छोटे group से आप इतने बड़े बड़े generalization नहीं कर सकते. You have to consider the entire organization for generalizing something, right? So this is what he says. This is what Carey says: inadequate and unreliable sample to make sweeping generalization. He is also of the opinion that the data only supports old view about the importance of monetary incentives, leadership and discipline as motivating factors for better performance. His overall criticism is that Hawthorne investigations lack a scientific base. So basically आपने एक scientific base अच्छे से select नहीं किया. This is the next and last criticism. I hope you have understood all the criticisms now. So moving on, we'll now see what is the significance of human relations theory. We have criticized it, now we'll see its significance. In spite of its shortcomings, there are many shortcomings, so in spite of all those shortcomings, Mayo's human relations approach marked a major turning point in the history of administrative theory and practice. So they are a watershed event, क्योंकि उसके पहले किसी ने human concepts को उतने अच्छे से analyze किया ही नहीं था ना, तो आप कितने भी उसका criticism कर लो, कितने भी shortcomings निकाल लो, जो हैं, no doubt there are shortcomings, but still they are an important event in the history of administrative theory and practice. According to Bertram Gross, he is another thinker, Mayo made an attempt to understand the problem of workers from an angle different from that of traditional approach of the scientific management era. तो जो भी previous classical theories हुई थे, scientific management approach हुआ था, उन सबसे different उन लोगों ने कुछ approach try किया. This is how they are significant. इससे पहले ऐसा कभी किसी ने try नहीं किया था. Mayo's findings have profoundly changed the nature of organization theory. His most important findings is to identify the roots of work satisfaction. Work satisfaction होना चाहिए और ये work satisfaction मिलता है नॉन इकोनॉमिक एंड टू कनेक्ट इट विद इंटरेस्ट टेकन इन वर्कर्स परफॉर्मेंस. सो नॉन इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स से वर्क सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलता है. दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फाइंडिंग्स ऑफ ह्यूमन रिलेशंस अप्रोच, क्योंकि इसके पहले सारे थियरीज ने सिर्फ पैसे को ही इंपॉर्टेंट बताया था. इट वॉज नीड ऑफ द टाइम टू रियलाइज दैट आदमी सिर्फ पैसे के लिए काम नहीं करता, सेटिस्फैक्शन भी कुछ काम होता है. सो वर्क सेटिस्फैक्शन वॉज एन इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग गिवन टू अस बाय ह्यूमन रिलेशंस थियरी. इसके पहले किसी ने भी ये नहीं करने की कोशिश की थी. दिस इज हाउ दे आर सिग्निफिकेंट. एंड दीज फाइंडिंग्स रिवर्स टेलर्स एम्फेसिस ऑन इंसेंटिव ऑफ मॉनेटरी रिवॉर्ड्स. वी हैव सीन दिस. टेलर ने इतना एम्फेसाइज किया था मॉनेटरी रिवॉर्ड्स को. ह्यूमन रिलेशंस थियरी हैव ट्राइड टू रिवर्स दैट एम्फेसिस ऑन इंसेंटिव ऑफ मॉनेटरी रिवॉर्ड्स एंड डिस्प्रूव रिजिड टेलरिस्ट फिलोसफी ऑफ सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द वर्कर. तो जो भी रेबल हाइपोथेसिस है, जो वर्कर सिर्फ अपने सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट के लिए काम करता है, वो टेलर की फिलोसफी को उन लोगों ने रिवर्स करने का ट्राई किया. दिस इज हाउ दे आर सिग्निफिकेंट. The Hawthorne studies developed a more realistic model of human nature. As a consequence, human beings are recognized as social entities and an influential input into organizational performance. So human beings are important. They are important as being an input to organizational performance and also as social beings. तो ये सब concepts हमको human relations theory ने दिए, ये सब concepts हमको Hawthorne studies ने दिए. This is how they are significant. An important discovery of Mayo and his team is the concept of proper management workers communication, especially between the lower rungs of the organization and the higher levels. तो higher और lower levels के बीच में एक proper communication होना चाहिए. Democratic administration, if you remember, right? Democratic administration, effective communication, involving everyone in decision making, participative management. These are the things that human relations theory gave much importance to, and this is the important discovery of Mayo and his team. Concept of proper communication and everything between lower and higher levels. Communication with the leaders of the informal groups is also considered equally important. तो जो informal groups होते हैं उनके अंदर भी कुछ natural leaders emerge होते हैं, right? So communication with those natural leaders of these informal groups is also important, and this is the significance of human relations theory. What is the scene today? We'll see now how relevant human relations theory is today. So although human relations heyday was from 1930s to 1950s, right? ये एक टाइम था जब human relations theory एकदम पीक पे थी. So this was the heyday of human relations theory. So although the human relations heyday was over, the research and theory building continue today also on many of the issues first raised in the Hawthorne studies in the late 1920s and the early 1930s. तो चाहे वो पीक टाइम खत्म हो गया हो, चाहे वो heyday खत्म हो गया हो, लेकिन अभी भी उनके बिछाए हुए concepts पे अभी भी रिसर्च होती है. एंड वो concepts तो एकदम इनिशियली दिए हुए थे, एकदम लेट 1920s और अर्ली 1930s में. इतने पुराने कंसेप्ट्स पे आज भी रिसर्च होती है. The human relations approach has great impact initially on business administration and later on public administration. तो initially it was for private industries and later on public administration में भी काम आने लग गया, bureaucracies में भी humans के values को importance देने लग गए and everything happened. So initially it had a great impact on business administration and then on public administration. Indeed, it is regarded as a major development in the American administrative thought for the period of 1900 to 1939. तो ये जो period था human relations theory का, it is regarded as major development in American administrative thought of that period. This approach marked a major turning point in the history of administrative theory and practice. In 1973, however, एक criticism है इसका अभी. In 1973, Peter Drucker wrote, "The human relations prescription, though rarely practiced, remains a classic formula." So what he said is, human relations theory is rarely practiced. It is still a classic formula, but it is rarely practiced. This was an important comment by someone so knowledgeable like Peter Drucker. He said that human relations prescription is rarely practiced and it still remains a classic formula, but it is rarely practiced. Today it is still too rarely practiced, though every management pays lip service to it. तो अगर आज आप भी देखोगे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में, इन मल्टीनेशनल कॉर्पोरेशंस एवरीवेयर, इवन इन इंडिया, तो इतनी कोई बातें नहीं होती बड़ी बड़ी के एम्प्लॉयज को खुश रखना है, एम्प्लॉयज को ये करना है, वो करना है. देयर आर लिप सर्विसेज पेड टू इट. देयर आर HRs इन एवरी कंपनीज एंड एवरीथिंग. देयर इज टॉक ऑफ टेकिंग केयर ऑफ नीड्स ऑफ द मेंबर्स ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. तो ये सब लिप सर्विस देते हैं, लेकिन इतना भी कुछ हैवीली ये नहीं करते कि भाई एम्प्लॉयज को खुशी करना है पूरा, उनको नॉन इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स ही दो. यू डू नॉट फाइंड सो मेनी नॉन इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स कमिंग योर वे, राइट? एवरीथिंग दैट इज गिवन टू यू इज बेसिकली ऑल इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स. अच्छा काम करोगे तो अच्छा पैसा मिलेगा. सो इन 1973 पीटर ड्रकर सेड दिस, दैट टुडे इट इज रेयरली प्रैक्टिस, एंड दिस इज द सीन टुडे ऑल्सो, दैट इट इज रेयरली प्रैक्टिस एंड एवरीथिंग इज जस्ट लिप सर्विस टू इट. इट इज अ क्लासिक फॉर्मूला नेवरदलेस. So we are done with this. As always, I will ask you to practice this question, and please practice this question. Only by practice you will realize where you lack and how you have to improve. So on this note, I would again request you to please wait for a week or so. I am working on a way to bring out these notes to you. Give me a week's time or so. And thank you for watching this session. I hope to see you soon in my next session. Like, comment and share this session if you like the content. Also subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, so that you do not miss the upcoming videos. Peace out.